So in the one and only Ivan, we are now on page 82. It's reading number 11. So a lot of you have gotten your own book already, which is so cool. And you're watching the movie. I'm so excited to hear about that. And so this chapter starts out titled Stella and Ruby. All morning, Stella strokes Ruby, pats her, smells her. They flap their ears. They rumble and roar. They sway as if they were dancing. Ruby clings to Stella's tail. She slips under Stella's belly. This is so funny because Stella didn't like that Ruby was coming, and now it seems like they're best friends. Sometimes they just lean into each other, their trunks twirled together like jungle vines. Stella looks so happy. It's more fun to watch than any nature show I've ever seen on TV. The next little chapter is called Home of the One and Only Ivan. George and Mac are out on the highway. I can see them through one of my windows. They're next to each other on tall wooden ladders, leaning against the billboard that tells the cars to stop and visit the one and only Ivan, mighty Silverback. George has a bucket and a long-handled broom. Mac has pieces of paper. He slaps one against the billboard, and George dips the broom into the other bucket. He wets the paper with the liquid from the bucket, and somehow the paper stays in place. They put up many pieces before they're done. So what might your thoughts be now? You might want to pause this and write on your form what thoughts you might have. I'm kind of wondering, maybe they're covering up Ivan and putting on little Ruby. I don't know. When they're done, when they climb down from the ladders, I can see they've added a picture of a little elephant on the billboard. And the elephant has a lopsided smile. She's wearing a red hat and her tail curls like a pig's. She doesn't look like Ruby. She doesn't even look like an elephant. I've only known Ruby one day, and I could have drawn her better. I love that. The next little chapter on page 85 is called Art Lesson. Ruby asks a lot of questions. She says, Ivan, why is your tummy so big? And have you ever seen a green giraffe? And can you give me one of those pink clouds that the humans are eating? Which must be what? Yeah, cotton candy. When Ruby asks, what is that on your wall? I explain, it's a jungle. She says the flowers have no scent and the waterfalls have no water and the trees have no roots. I'm aware of that, I say. It's art, a picture made with paint. Do you know how to make art? Ruby asks. Yes, I do, I say, and I puff up my chest, just a little. I've always been an artist. I love drawing. Why do you love it? Ruby asks. I pause. I've never talked to anyone about this before, and when I'm drawing a picture, I feel quiet inside. Ruby frowns. Quiet is boring. Not always. Ruby scratches the back of her neck with her little trunk. Why do you draw anyway? Or what do you draw anyway? Bananas mostly, things in my domain. My drawings sell at the gift store for $25 a piece with a frame. What's a frame? Ruby asks. What's $1? What's a gift store? I close my eyes. I'm a little sleepy, Ruby. Have you ever driven a truck? Ruby asks. I don't answer. Poor little Ruby asks too many questions. Ivan, Ruby asks, can Bob fly? A memory flashes past, surprising me. I think of my father, snoring peacefully under the sun, while I try every trick I know to wake him. Perhaps I realize he wasn't such a sound sleeper after all. Oh, how funny. The next little chapter on page 88 is called Treat. How's that foot, old girl? George asks Stella. Stella pokes her trunk between the bars. She inspects George's right shirt pocket for a treat he brings her every night without fail. George doesn't always bring me treats. Stella's his favorite, but I don't mind. She's my favorite too. Stella sees that George's pocket is empty. She gives George a frustrated nudge with her trunk and Julia giggles. Stella moves to George's left pocket and discovers a carrot. Nimbly, she removes it. Mac walks past. Toilet's plugged up in the men's bathroom, he says. Big mess. I'll take care of it, George sighs. Mac turns to leave. Before you go, Mac, George says, you might want to take a look at Stella's foot. I think it's infected again. Darn thing never does heal up right. Mac rubs his eyes. I'll keep an eye on it. Money's tight, though. Can't be calling a vet every time she sneezes. George strokes Stella's trunk. She inspects his pockets one more time, just in case. Sorry, girl, George says as he watches Mac walk away. The next little chapter is called Elephant Jokes. Ivan, Bob, it's on page 90. I blink. The dawn sky is a smudge of gray flecked with pink, like a picture drawn with two crayons. I can just make out Ruby in the shadows, waving hello with her trunk. Are you awake? Ruby asks. We are now, says Bob. Aunt Stella's still asleep, and I don't want to wake her because her foot's been hurting, and I'm really, Ruby pauses for a breath, really bored. Bob opens one eye. You know what I do when I'm bored? What? Ruby asks eagerly. Bob closes his eyes. I sleep. It's a little early, Ruby, I say. I'm used to getting up early. Ruby wraps her trunk around one of the bars on her door. At my old circus, we always got up when it was still dark, and then we had breakfast and we walked in a circle. And then they chained my feet up, and that really hurt. Ruby falls silent. Instantly, Bob is snoring. Ivan, Ruby asks, do you know any jokes? I especially like jokes about elephants. Well, let me see. I heard Mac tell one once. I yawn. How can you tell that an elephant has been in the refrigerator? How? By the footprints in the butter. Ruby doesn't react. I sit up on my elbows, trying not to disturb Bob. Got it? Get it? What's a refrigerator? Ruby asks. It's a human thing, a cold box with a door. They put food inside. They put food in a door? Or food in a box? Or is it a big box, Ruby asks, or a little box? I can see this is going to take a while, so I sit up all the way and Bob slides off, grumbling. I reach for my pencil, the one I snapped in half with my teeth. Here, I say, I'll draw a picture for you. And in the dim light, it takes me a minute to find the piece of paper Julia gave me. Paper's a little damp and has a smear of something orange on it. I think it's from a tangerine. I try my best to make a refrigerator. The broken pencil's not cooperating, but I do the best I can. And by the time I'm done, the first streaks of morning sun have appeared in flashy cartoon colors. I hold up my picture for Ruby to see. She studies it intently. Her head turns so that one black eye is trained on my drawing. Wow, you made that? Is this the thing you were telling me about before? Art? Sure, I can draw all kinds of things. I'm especially good at fruit. Can you draw a banana right now? Ruby asks. Absolutely. I turn the paper over and sketch. Wow, Ruby says again in an odd voice when I hold up the page. Looks good enough to eat. She makes a happy, lilting sound, an elephant laugh. It's like the sound of a bird I recall from long ago, a tiny yellow bird with a voice like dancing water. Strange, I'd forgotten all about that bird and how he'd wake me up every morning at dawn when I was still curled up safely in my mother's nest. It's a good feeling, making Ruby laugh. So I draw another picture and another along the edges of the paper, an orange, a candy bar, a carrot. What are you two up to? Stella asks, moaning as she tries to move her sore foot. How are you this morning? I ask. Oh, just feeling my age, Stella says. I'm fine. Ivan is making me pictures, Ruby says, and he told me a joke and I really like Ivan, Aunt Stella. Stella winks at me. Me too, she says. Ivan, want to hear my favorite joke? Ruby asks. I heard it from Maggie. She is one of the giraffes in my old circus. Sure, I say. It goes like this. Ruby clears her throat. What do elephants have that nothing else has? Trunks, I think. But I don't know the answer because I don't answer because I don't want to ruin Ruby's fun. I don't know, Ruby, I replied. What do elephants have that nothing else has? Baby elephants, Ruby says. Good one, Ruby, I say, watching Stella stroke Ruby's back with her trunk. Good one, Stella says softly. And that's the end of reading 11. So we're on page 97 for the next time. And once again, remember to write on the form your questions, your predictions, your feelings and thoughts. And we have to find time each day to share them the next day with the whole class. So make sure I remember to do that. Awesome. We'll see you next time.